Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Philosophy Online Lectures on YouTube. My name is Olaji Ayomide, also known as Most Engaging MC MEM. So today I'll be talking about Epicurean ethics, which is an hedonistic ethics, and I'll be starting with the background of who Epicurus was, the founder of Epicureanism, and his idea on ethics. So now, Epicurus was born 7 years after the death of Plato. He was a philosopher who isn't based on theories but on the practical aspect of life. So his philosophy, he gained fame through his philosophy and the philosophy that he taught and the and way of life that he taught people. So that was what really attracted fame to Epicurus. Now Epicurus taught philosophy, and his philosophy was very popular at the period in which it was in existence and even till date. Now, in his mid 30s, as a philosophy teacher, he bought a space, a garden at the edge of Athens. You know, the philosophers after Aristotle were majorly many of them were from Athens. So he bought a garden at the edge of Athens and built a philosophical school there. That philosophy school is called the Garden. The people who were part of this school were men, women, children, slaves, masters, even members of senate, and very very influential people. So that is that on the background of who Epicurus was. Now, in understanding Epicurus' ethics, which was an hedonistic one, we have to first of all understand Epicurus' metaphysics. And we know metaphysics is concerned about what constitutes reality, what constitutes existence. Now, Epicurus, humans philosophy, like I said before, it was not a theoretical philosopher. He was one that was concerned about philosophy being a practical aspect of our life. And like Karl Marx said, that philosophy shouldn't be concerned about thinking and creating ideas. We should be able to put those ideas into action. So that was someone who that was who Epicurus was like. Now he was not like I said, he was not a fan of theoretical ethics. To him, philosophy should be able to heal the soul. Like he said that if what is the essence of medicine if it cannot cure a patient? So what is the essence of philosophy if it cannot cure our soul? If it cannot heal our soul? So to him, philosophy should be something that should be practiced for the betterment of our own life. Now, in understanding his metaphysics, Epicurus brought the idea of the Democritus, that reality is made up of atoms, atoms, atoms. Now, that of smaller atoms which have different size and different shape. Now, to Epicurus, since atoms are material things, that means atoms must have weight. If atoms are material substance, that means they must have weight. Now, this is the analogy. He said that atoms are, they are smaller in numbers and much, and they fall in. He said that they fall like in a downward section, like rain. Now, as these atoms are falling, uh, they spontaneously, unconsciously, they swerve and join together. Like if let's say a grain of beans is being poured down, there are different number of beans, but due to the maybe weather or anything, two beans can collide and stuff like that. So, but when two beans collide, it does not become one. But when atoms collide, they become one and they grow large in number. As well, because this is the reason why some rocks are bigger than others. Now, That is on his idea about metaphysics. And what is it trying to say here? It's trying to say that if atoms fall and by spontaneity they get to join together, that means there is we are not determined. He is comparing our atoms to our soul. He said atoms are our soul. Now he's saying that if atoms fall in a particular direction, like downward, but due to spontaneity they hit each other and become one, that means we are not determined. And how do I explain this? We can't say something is determined if it's going in a particular direction but could swerve and collide with other things and mix up to be something. That means it is not focused on that particular this thing. So Epicurus was saying that after all, this means that there is a room for free will in the material world. Atoms are material substance. If they are determined, automatically they will swerve with other things through spontaneity and then join together with other atoms to become one. We can see something is determined if it could swerve and through spontaneity collide with other things. So that is now saying that there is a room for free will in the material world after all. That although there is determinism, but there is a room for free will since atom could through spontaneity collide with each other. How we are getting it? So that is his concept of metaphysics. Now, moving to his ethics, is saying that we first talk about metaphysics and the fact that philosophy should heal the human soul. That is the essence of metaphysics. Now he is now saying that he compared atoms to the human soul. Now the kind of things that we do is out of how the atoms influence our sense organs. That is how what is going on in our soul influence our sense organs. Now different emotions could be going on in you from so having been in a good mental state or being in a sad mood or so many things. So those things in turn influence our action. Now I'm saying that psychologically every human is concerned about what will give that person pleasure and not pain. Are you studying for pain? No, you are studying for pleasure, to get something. If you are not going to get, if studying in Nigeria will lead you to jail, you are not going to study. So we are doing everything because of the pleasure that is there. Now and our behaviour, human behaviour is influenced by the fact that there is pleasure in what we are going to get or what we are doing. So that he called that psychological hedonism. Psychological hedonism. Yes, psychological hedonism. Now he's now saying that if you want to say something is good or bad, that is those things must be based on the part of what is pleasure and what gives pleasure and what give pain. Anything that I'm doing it. I'm not just doing it, but I'm doing it because there's pleasure that I'm going to get there. So what determines what is right and what is wrong? Anything that is right must give me what pleasure. Anything that is wrong is what gives us pain. Now what now constitutes ultimate value to Epicurus was what gives us pleasure. When the word say pleasure is good, Epicurus say only pleasure is good. When the word say when pleasure is good, Epicurus say only pleasure is good. When the word say pursue pleasure, avoid pain, Epicurus say pursue only pleasure. So are we getting it now? So that's why and hedonism has to do with having pleasure, and that is why they say Epicurean ethics is an ethics that is an hedonistic ethics because it has to do with pleasure. So it's saying that we should pursue when they say pursue good and avoid evil. Good to Epicurus means pleasure, evil to him means pain. But when we say pursue pleasure, it gives us so much freedom. And when we say avoid pain, there are some things. Now Epicurus is trying to clarify his point here. He said that there are some things that could be giving us pleasure at this particular moment but could lead to pain in the future. Now, what is an example of this? Like if you are involved in fornication for so long, at the long run you might contract a disease. You are enjoying yourself, it's pleasure, but at the long run you might contract a disease. If you are too addicted to smoking, it's pleasure for the meantime, but at the long run you might have a disease. So Epicurus was trying to state clarify his point here that we should understand that avoiding pain doesn't mean that, and pursuing pleasure doesn't mean that you will not know which one is actually good for you to as a good way of life for you. Now he made a statement, and I want to read that statement out for you. He said that uh, one must reckon that of desires, that those things that we desire, the pleasure that we desire, some are natural, some are groundless. Now, and of the natural desires, some are necessary and some are merely natural. I'm going to be explaining this. And of the necessary, some are necessary for happiness, and some for freeing the body from troubles, and some for life itself. Now, when he's saying that some desires are natural, is saying that there are some things that are natural to us, but there are some things that are groundless, like material things, money, jewelries, designers, clothes. Those things will perish. It is pleasure, but they are groundless. Now I say that some are natural, but they are not necessary. How, what is natural but not necessary? Sex. Sex is natural, but it's being involved in fornication and promiscuous acts is an unnecessary thing, and it could affect, it could lead to pain in the near future. And also he said that some are natural and necessary. For one, for happiness. What gives happiness? Wisdom. You use wisdom as an example. When you are wise, it gives you joy. When you have good friends, it gives you what? It gives you joy. And he said some are natural and for comfort. That is the second point. And what is natural and for comfort? Adequate clothing. When you can wear good clothes. He said that some are natural for life. What is natural for life? When you water and food. That was he mentioned here. So understanding Epicurus ethics as an hedonistic one should help us understand that there are things that pleasure is something that is good, but it doesn't mean that we should overstep it or be extravagant in our doings. No, it doesn't mean that we should overstep it or be extravagant in our doings. No. So now I will mention some things that Epicurus says that the following Epicurus says that the following characterize the life of the happy person: prudence, that is knowing how to manage yourself; self-sufficiency; sober reasoning. Sober reasoning, when you are in deep thought, telling yourself the truth, is not pain, it's a pleasure on its own. Honor, justice, wisdom, health of the body, peace of mind, plain food. Now these are what Epicurus understanding of the this is Epicurus hedonistic ethics. Now we should also understand that the Epicureans lived a virtuous life. but they do not see moral as the utmost thing that one should chase, like the end, but they see virtue as the means to an end. That is, virtue is what you should do as long as it give you happiness as always, but not that that is your end goal. No, but what you do to get to your end goal. Now, one last Epicurus says that one must honor the noble and the virtues and things like that if they produce pleasure, but if they do not, one must bid them goodbye. And if you want to respect anybody, if you want to do something that is virtuous, you must ensure that those things give you pleasure. But if they do not give you pleasure, you bid them goodbye. So pleasure, hedonistic means pleasure. So Epicurus ethics was based on pleasure, that we do everything. Human behavior is motivated by the fact that we are going to get pleasure in whatever we do. We chase anything that will give us pleasure. That is psychological hedonism. And the concept of what constitutes ultimate value, or what we can say is good, and what we can say is right, and what is wrong, is tagged as ethical hedonism. When that is when everybody say pleasure is good, Epicurus say only pleasure is good. I hope we understand the class. Thank you so much for watching. We're going to continue on other aspects of post Aristotelian philosophy. Thank you for watching. God bless you.